Mighty and eternal God, we guard our hearts today. And in those hearts, the sacred memory of those who gave their lives on that dread day, December 7, 1941. A day that permanently changed our entire world. Not everything in this world reflects your goodness and your grace, for you have given us the freedom to choose, and with that freedom we often choose to do harm to one another. But such are the costs of war and man's inhumanity toward his fellow man. On this day, may we never forget the thousands who lost their lives, nor those who suffered injury, nor those who suffered loss of a loved one. Let us here be determined, as those on that day in Pearl Harbor were determined, to guard the priceless heritage of our freedom. Help us to be worthy of the lofty ideals for which so many courageous men and women sacrificed so much. May we be willing to follow their example. We also remember and give thanks for those who survived the attack, though haunted by the memory of that day, who went on with their lives in a way that portrayed honor to the watching world. May we never forget that freedom comes with a high cost, and let us, like those on that day, be willing to do what they did, so that those yet to be born may enjoy the same freedom we now hold so dear. A freedom paid for by those on that day in December 1941, and the thousands who are laid to rest on this sacred ground upon which we now stand. May the memory of that day guide us, so that we may never forget. And let all here present say amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pat. Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We will now have the national anthem by the Smoky Land Sound Chorus.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rugged red glare gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
At this time, I would like to ask for a brief moment of silence in remembrance for those who lost their lives on December 7th, 1941. Thank you. Lest we forget. All right. We will now have a wreath presentation by members of the Central High School Junior ROTC cadets after your introduction. Please hold your applause for the cadets until I introduce all of the cadets. Cadet Lieutenant Commander Isaac Katz. Isaac has earned the title of Navy Junior ROTC Commanding Officer and is the commander of the Navy Junior ROTC Unit Service, Athletic, and Unarmed Drill Teams. He is the president of the National Honor Society, participates in mock trials where he served as lead defense attorney, and is a prior member of the Central High School Bobcat Company's show choir and barbershop quartet. Isaac plans to attend the United States Naval Academy for a degree in nuclear engineering. Cadet Ensign Ronisha Ross. Ronisha Ross is the executive officer at the Central High School. She has been in ROTC for 4 years. So far in the program, she has accomplished being the academic team leader by her junior year. She has also earned the American Legion Award Medal and Honor Cadet Medal. She plans on going to college to get her business degree. Cadet Petty Officer First Class Brody Hackworth. Brody Hackworth is a sophomore at Central High School and has earned the title of Cadet First Class Petty Officer, Public Affairs Officer, Color Guard Commander, and is the captain of the aviation team in his junior ROTC unit. Brody plans to attend the United States Naval Academy for a degree in aerospace engineering in hopes of one day becoming a fighter pilot for the U.S. Navy. Cadet Petty Officer Second Class Caitlin Riot. Caitlin is a Petty Officer Second Class enjoying her second year in ROTC. Caitlin is the second period platoon commander and commander of the academic team. Can we have an applause for these fine cadets? It is now my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, retired United States Army Major General Leslie A. Purser. She is a graduate of Military Intelligence Officer Basic and Advanced Courses, United States Army Command and General Staff School, and United States Army War College. Major General Purser has successfully helped command and staff positions at every level, with her last assignment as Assistant to the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, Pentagon. In retirement, she serves as one of 4 Army Reserve Ambassadors for the state of Tennessee and is the President of the Eastern Tennessee Military Affairs Council, among many other civic duties. She is married to former Army Officer Joe Purser, retired, and they have 2 grown children, Jennifer and Justin, both of whom are majors in the United States Army. Please join with me in welcoming retired Major General Leslie Purser.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Senator Briggs, happy birthday. Fellow veterans, it's my honor to be here today. Thank you for asking me, American Legion Post 2. I've never spoken at an event for Pearl Harbor before, so this is new for me, and I am extremely humbled that you all asked me to be here today. Months earlier, as the tensions mounted, Admiral Kimmel and Lieutenant General Short who shared command at Pearl Harbor, were warned of the possibility of war. The notice of November 27th to Kimmel began, quote, "This dispatch is to be considered a war warning," end quote, and went on to say that negotiations have ceased and directed the Admiral to execute an appropriate defensive deployment. The communication of the same day to Short declared hostile action is possible at any moment, and like its naval counterpart, urged measures of reconnaissance. In response to these warnings, the measures taken by the commanders were, as the event proved, far from adequate. Clearly, an opportunity missed. Kimmel moored the entire fleet, save that part which was at sea, in the harbor, and permitted a part of his personnel to go on shore leave. In the 10 days between the war warning of November 27th and the Japanese attack itself, no additional action was taken by Washington. Another opportunity missed. Early on Sunday morning, December 7th, Washington learned that the Japanese ambassadors had been instructed to ask for an interview with the Secretary of State at 1 p.m. This was a clear indication that war was at hand. But the message had not been filed until noon, only an hour before the Japanese planes moved in on the base. In these same morning hours, Private George Elliott, practicing on the radar set after its normal closing time, noticed a large flight of planes on the screen. When he telephoned his lieutenant, he was told, "Disregard. A flight of B-17 bombers from the United States was expected at that time." Another opportunity missed. We all know what happened next. U.S. military casualties totaled more than 3,400, including more than 2,400 killed. Heavy damage was inflicted on both Army and Navy ships and aircraft. The Japanese lost a few dozen planes, a few submarines, and fewer than 100 men. The Japanese task force retired from the theater of battle without being attacked. George W. Bush said, quote, "I ask you veterans of Pearl Harbor and all Americans to remember the unity of purpose that followed that momentous December day years ago," end quote. They knew the things worth living for, but also worth dying for. Principle, decency, fidelity, and honor. We saw that same unity, that strength of national spirit when we launched Desert Storm. Once the war for Kuwait began, we pulled together. We were united, determined, and we were confident. And when it was over, we rejoiced in exactly the same way we did in 1945, heads held high, proud, and grateful. It's a feeling I would like to see and understand that the American spirit is still as it was after Pearl Harbor or Kuwait. Quote, "Today the U.S. spends less on defense as a percentage of our economy than we did at any time since the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. For the world's only superpower, that's an invitation to very serious trouble." Steve Forbes said that. Is this another opportunity missed? Admiral Harry Harris said, quote, "As we commemorate this day, let us rededicate ourselves to delivering to future generations the same gift of security and peace that was purchased for us by those who sacrificed so much in the defense of our freedom," end quote. Are we delivering that gift of security and peace to our citizens when Russia and China are attacking our critical infrastructure with cyber attacks to the tune of thousands per day? Are we delivering security and peace to future generations in Afghanistan? When we pulled out of the country, the Taliban moved in. Their religious group's seizure of power in August of 2021 sent their economy into a tailspin and fundamentally transformed Afghanistan, driving millions into poverty and hunger, as foreign aid stopped almost overnight. Is this another opportunity missed? Ensuring effective border security and management here in the United States is essential for preventing and countering the flow of suspected terrorists and foreign fighters across land, air, and maritime borders. Border security and management is also imperative to curb the illicit cross-border movement of arms, ammunition, drugs, and hazardous materials that may be used for terrorist purposes. But there is a jihadist threat from the south. It's not new. It's been going on since before 9/11. It's real, multifaceted, and the number of undocumented immigrant crossings at the southwest border for fiscal year 22 topped 2.76 million. In fiscal year 2019, the Border Patrol apprehended a total of 2,134 Chinese nationals. Granted, most of our illegal immigrants come from places like Honduras, Mexico, and Guatemala. And they come from places like China, Yemen, Pakistan, and Syria. And although most come to start businesses or to escape tyranny, we have to remember that it only took 4 men from a foreign country to take down 2 World Trade Centers and cause extreme havoc on 9/11. More opportunities missed. The occasion of Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day will always be one of the most important ones in American history, and let us remember the lost souls on this special day. Those who woke, never anticipating an attack on their place of work or against this country. But as Admiral Harris said, we must also remember and apply the lessons we learned that day. And that's why we evoke the motto of Pearl Harbor Survivors Association. Remember Pearl Harbor. Keep America alert. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. The unity of purpose we experienced after that tragedy continues to inspire many of us in the cause of peace among nations. In their own way, amidst the bedlam and anguish of that awful day, the men of Pearl Harbor served that noble cause, honored it. Again, they knew that things worth living for, but also worth dying for. Principle, decency, fidelity, and honor. Let us not forget that. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America and our service members serving everywhere.
A couple of program notes here. A lady that I forgot to recognize, the daughter of John Edward Maxey, which was a survivor of Pearl Harbor, which lives here in Knoxville. His daughter, Linda Maxey Haddock. And certainly before we move on, I just want to say on a personal basis, the program that you have in front of you, 79 pages, we started on it last February, and American Legion Post 2 dedicated itself to getting it done. However, you know, every organization needs a point man. Every organization is just as good as its people. So I think it's important that we recognize the guy that carried the torch forward, Mr. Jim Hackworth. All right, we will now have the presentation of the proclamation by Michael Mumley. Michael, are you here? Michael is the cemetery caretaker for East Tennessee Department of Veteran Affairs, and they have been very appreciative or very thoughtful in letting us come every year to use this place for this Pearl Harbor Remembrance program. Mr. Michael Mumley.
Very honored to be able to be selected to read this today for Governor Bill Lee. Blue cheap. Whereas at 7:55 a.m., December 7th, 1941, the silence of Sunday morning was fragmented when the Imperial Japanese Navy attacked our forces on the United States Naval Base at Pearl Harbor, leaving 2,403 Americans dead and much of our nation's Pacific Fleet destroyed. And whereas the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor led to the United States' entrance into World War II, today we remember the greatest generation who showed great courage and resolve to secure the freedom of millions around the world. And whereas the crystal waters of Pearl Harbor have been the resting place of sailors and Marines aboard the USS Arizona, USS Utah, and USS Oklahoma for over 80 years. We honor these patriots and commemorate the valor of all who served. And whereas we are eternally grateful for members of our nation's military and their families who freely risk all the benefits for others. Now, therefore, I, Bill Lee, Governor of the State of Tennessee, do hereby proclaim December 7th, 2022 as Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day in Tennessee, and encourage all citizens to join me in this worthy observance. Signed, Bill Lee, Governor.
All right, on behalf of American Legion Post 2, I would like to thank all of you for attending on less than an ideal day for this ceremony. Please rise if you are able for the benediction with bagpipes, rifle volley, and then taps. Dr. Pat Polis.
For those of us who have had the privilege of wearing a uniform of the United States military, and for those of us who have experienced what it's like to be in combat, this day is extremely important. It has often been said you don't really know the value of life until you've experienced death. For those of us who have experienced that over and over again, it's a memory that lasts forever. So when we stand here, especially on this ground, where 5,000 of our brothers and sisters are laid to rest, it is indeed significant that we remember. Do you agree?
Yes.
Would you join me then in this final word? Almighty and eternal God, we thank you again for today. And we know that your word says that your eye misses nothing. So you see us here, not only remembering, but honoring those who served during that time, up to the present, and those who will continue to serve for freedom. We ask, Lord, that you would give us wisdom and understanding to do what is right, in spite of what we see and what we hear, and especially, Lord, those of us who are veterans, to lead the way, to set the example, because we know what it is to face death and yet still live. Help us to help others, to help this country be all that you intended it to be. This is our prayer today as we again stand on this sacred ground. And let everyone say amen.
Amen.
remain standing for the rifle salute and pass.